This is a modification of an Opinel high carbon steel knife. It's kind of something we would use here on the northwest coast, just to put a better handle on it and reprofile the blade so it's a bit more useful. Here it is here. The original Opinel is quite deep from the spine to the cutting edge, so we narrowed it a little bit so it's not quite so deep, and modified the back end of it so we can mount it in the handle and drop the point a bit. It's got kind of a recurve point on there. There's a picture of what we start with, a number 7 high carbon steel. Get some safety tools, wear some eye protection, some puncture resistant gloves. That's what it looks like there. You want to make sure you're doing this safely. You kind of have to pry off that outer ring, that locking ring. So I just kept the blade closed and used some needle nose pliers. Had to kind of wiggle it and bend it a little bit to get that off of there. And I used a nail to hammer out that little hinge or retaining pin that's on there. And use the needle nose pliers again to kind of wiggle that out. It's put together pretty well. Once that pins out even a little bit, you can take off that kind of metal retainer there. You can kind of pry that out with some with a screwdriver or something, and just be careful. Don't do anything crazy with all this. You can always poke yourself with a screwdriver if you're not careful. And I pulled out that little pin, and here's all the pieces. So the blade will come right out. You can do this with a variety of power tools like a Dremel or a white stone on a grinding wheel. I used a 1x30-inch belt grinder with an 80 grit belt on there, and keep it cool. Don't cool it off afterwards. Make sure you keep it cool by constantly dipping it in water. Go very, very slowly, and you'll end up with a kind of a thick edge on there because you've reprofiled the blade. Putting some ink on there from a Sharpie or something will let you know where you're filing. In this case, I'm using a pretty rough diamond file that I found pretty cheaply actually at a hardware store. That gives you an idea of how it's been changed. It's much more maneuverable here, and I cut into halfway through a piece of wood, a piece of yellow cedar, and I cracked that off with an old Sloyd knife I had laying around my shop. When you crack the wood, just checking my drill bit size there, when you crack the wood, it's got a lot of the grain showing, and it kind of keys back together a bit better. The handle holds together better when you crack it. So after I drilled it, I drew it out, and I carved it out with a really cheap little chisel I had from a yard sale. So that's kind of how it'll fit. Make sure it fits all back together. And use some 5-minute epoxy. You'll notice there's 2 holes in here because I actually moved it out a little bit. I wanted the blade sticking out of the handle a bit further. And there's that hinge pin that we had from earlier. I put that through my hole and just clamped it there. I drew a little arrow pointing at the hinge pin so I don't lose sight of it later. I don't want to hit that when I'm working on my handle with another knife. And I just put it out in the sun for a bit because the ultraviolet light helps the epoxy kick a little faster. That's it, pretty rough. Handle's just starting to take shape. The pin's been cut down with a little hacksaw. Arrow's still pointing at it. And you don't want to put too much shape on your handle. You don't want like finger grooves or anything. You want to be able to hold it in a variety of ways so it's versatile. There's a little kind of a knob at the blade end of the handle, and that's going to stop the whipping twine from coming off. See, nice big facets on there, so it's a little easier to hold as long as there's nothing that'll give you a blister on the handle. A little bit of shape, rough shape like that is fine. The seine twine or whipping twine is just sort of a polyester with some tar on it. It just tends to be what we use here. And there's a variety of places you can find out how to do a whipping knot, but it's kind of like a hangsman noose. Put some tape on there to hold one of the tail ends of the knot. That tape's not going to stop you from really poking yourself. It just helps, so you don't get a little cut. It's not really going to save you, so don't go crazy. So you after you wrap it, you put it through the loose end there and pull the knot underneath all the wrapping, and then trim off the ends, and that's how whipping is done. It's kind of a ferrule so the handle doesn't come apart. And And at this point, when the blade is mounted, here it is here, I can really start to sharpen it. So I'll re-ink it with a Sharpie and then keep filing it. And this is how it comes out. You can use a sharpening stone or work through different grits of wet and dry sandpaper, a little bit of honing compound and a strop later on. It took about 2 or 3 hours altogether to put this blade together. I was doing it at the same time I was shooting this video by myself, so it's a little bit a little bit rough video, but it gives you an idea of how to make a knife, and it's quite a good beginner's knife. But I know people who are still using them. They were just doing details on a totem pole with it, so it'll last a while. There's the same kind of thing you can do with a file, a Swiss-made knife. Those are called violin knives, and it's sort of the same procedure to make this knife. It's good to begin with a knife like this because you learn a lot about sharpening and how the blade actually works, modifying the profile and taking down the bevels, and you learn a lot about the whole process without investing too much money. I spent about $15 or $20 on this blade and my time. So thank you very much for watching.